Hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button. You know, there's no assurance, but later on this year, I can have Hollyfield come, which I have connections with, and I have George. I have connections with George Foreman. And I'm not sure how to use that because I don't want them fighting with anybody. But what's the takeaway of the boxing?
To face your fears, to get in there and just do it.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Never give up.
Correct. Now, one of the first rules of self-defense is don't turn your back. And we have some, and of course when you're under pain, you're getting punched in the face, you turn away, but not many fights are going to be won with your back to the guy. Plus he gets free punches. And a couple, three of you know how to punch him in the kidney and, you know, take advantage of that. Most of you don't. But it's facing fears, and nothing you're going to do in this program will put you through what you just went through. Nothing. You know, even if you're the worst cold caller that ever lived, even though you may piss your pants, I mean, this is much more difficult. And the pundits that, you know, all the guys that tell you can't fight from YouTube, and of course they're there and you're here, and everybody's got an opinion, especially about boxing. In the beginning, we took a lot of heat because we let gals fight. Although, because normally gals pull hair, you know, like in a bar, you know, for those of you that have seen gals fight. But for the most part, we had gals that could fight pretty well. And one time we had one girl and there was nobody to fight. And so we put him with a little Vietnamese guy who weighed about 100 pounds. She weighed 100 pounds. And so I said, don't be fucking beating her up. I told her before the fight. But then she knocked him on his ass. And then he looked over at me and said, and then he, you know, and then he was pounding on her. And luckily, the ref is separating them, you know. But as soon as the little girl knocked him on his butt, all bets were off, you know. Especially it's on YouTube, you know. So what else about the boxing? Yes, sir, in the back.
Attack.
Part of your, you know, your Chinese, are you Chinese?
Yeah.
Okay, Chinese, we had a Chinese love fest and we had a Nazi love fest, with the Germans. It's the best defense is a good offense. And I really don't know what they're teaching in martial arts now, but I would think it's still don't turn your back, and the best defense is a good offense. And, but you kids did pretty well. What else? Yes, sir.
Well, stays focused.
And it's not easy to stay focused when you get punched in the head. I mean, with any velocity whatsoever. And your natural aggression. I mean, some of you, was charging like you're on a football line, you know, and to try to control the situation, and that's your natural instinct, you know, to try to charge like on a football line. What else about? Yes, in the back.
Yes, for me, it could have been not possible to prepare to fight Mr. Rayleigh in this short period of time. So I just had to stay there and give it as I could. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you all, and the ref's there so nobody gets hurt. Now, I may be speaking too early, but so far nobody's hurt that I can tell. Now, some of you are going to come to dinner and you're going to have a dislocated shoulder. But right now, your adrenaline doesn't allow your shoulder to tell you it's dislocated. But don't tell me. I'm not interested about your dislocated shoulder. But we've had many guys knocked out. We had one guy knocked blind because they hit both sides of the retina, and he got his eyesight an hour later, but I mean, he couldn't see. And so we've had some, and normally, as far as I can tell, no broken bones. But normally we had a guy in the first fight that, you know how when you see him in the MMA, they dive under the rope? Well, he dove into the metal pole and knocks himself out.
And so he lost to the ring.
Yeah, he never made it to the ring. And so whenever I see you guys that are diving in, I'm suspect, you know, that you may get hurt. But it was good. It was good experience. Tonight's fish and chip night in the pavilion. It is currently, 5:15, more or less? Who's my 5:30? Who's my 6? Okay. 6:30. Okay. You're going to show up for dinner not like this. Go back and get dressed up. And any other questions about any of the stuff that we've covered? So, yes, sir.
The spreadsheet that we got with the valuation, or the base valuation, is that for publicly traded companies, or what size of companies is that for?
No, they're almost all privately held. Privately held. Now, I already told you, but I'm going to say it again. The multiples on privately held companies are significantly lower because there's no liquidity. That's why we can buy privately held companies 3 to 5 times earnings, 3 to 5 times cash flow, and we can flip them even to a private equity firm for 10 or 12 times. The private equity and the venture capitalists will pay you a premium for doing the grunt work that they don't want to do. You roll up 10 or 15 or 20 companies and they will pay you a premium, minimum twice what you paid. In many cases, if you're buying them at 3.5 times cash flow, they'll give you 12 or 15 times cash flow because they're anticipating to flip it into the public market at 20 or 25 times cash flow. And but there's almost always somebody to buy you back out at a significant premium to what you paid. There's almost always. Now, if global warming, even if global warming is right and the water rate goes up 30 feet, there are going to be people that are going to be buying stuff. They won't be buying it on the coastlines, but they're going to be buying, the assets. We have some guys, and I don't recommend this, that because they believe that there is a chance, there's a 30% chance that global warming is for real, supposedly, 30%. I mean, the real, with a big 100-foot water. They're buying assets all in central United States. They're buying the roll-ups, away from the water. Now, I don't believe that, so I believe that before that happens, you have an opportunity to exit. But there are people that, that their whole investment philosophy, their whole investment doctrine is based on buying safe assets that are away from any potential flooding. It's a great tool, and when you get out there and you see so little competition, other than from other QLA guys, there are guys doing this, but I train most of them, and you'll be able to see when you come up against somebody that just got it off the website, and we have guys making a lot of money out just off the website, never meeting me, but they don't follow the steps. Now these are the steps behind me. And they go from the first step to the 5th step. They go, they don't do a green team. They don't do any of that stuff, and they go to right to buy a company. And they get away with it once, twice. But they don't exit for big multiples. Because unless you have the perception as reality with that whole infrastructure around you, nobody is going to give you the kind of valuations you want. And the biggest thing that's working for your benefits are that when you have the chairman, people presuppose he has faith in the deal and you. And then when you get the rest of the board members, they presuppose they have faith in you and the deal. Then when you get your accountants and lawyers, they presuppose that they have confidence and they've done all the due diligence. So it's a building block process that all these people, professionals, professional investment people, like you and or your deal, and the team that supports them, and you're going to be given that benefit of the doubt, which equates into higher multiples than you paid. Higher multiples than you paid. Now, once in a while, you'll get a seller that will discover where you've come from, QLA, and they'll pull out of a deal. Because then they decide, well, if this meathead can do it, why should I sell to him? Why don't I just... that happens once a year to one guy. But when it happens to you, it's 100%. Of all the people Peña trains, I'm the prick that the guy pulls out of the sale and decides to go roll up himself. But it does happen. Rarely, but it does happen. Any other questions before I let you go get dressed up and I'll see my 5:30? Yes, sir.
About how to do a deal in 10 seconds. So
I told you earlier.
No, I know. But basically, all we look for is for the gross profit margin to be either
20 to 40.
20 to 40, and that's it. After that, we can do due diligence.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, you're going to find a deal that's only got 12% profit margin, and you're going to fall in love with it. I'm not falling in love with it, but you will. And because they're a motivated seller, well, then you got to drive the purchase price down through due diligence to get them up, And almost always, I told you, there's only been one case in almost 50 years where I didn't drive the price down subject to due diligence. It's just because, most people live out of their businesses. All the expenses go through their business. Their vacations, their wife, their kids' school, everything goes through the business. And when you start drawing all that back out, and that takes away from the profit, I mean, you can easily, without even trying, you can drop a purchase price 10%. And in some cases, you can drop it 20, 30, or even 40%, just based on the bullshit. Because, it's not just the American way, it's the entrepreneur's way, where because you're spending dollars that you're not going to pay taxes on. If you buy your car legitimately for your wife that's got nothing to do with the business, that's after-tax money. And if you drive all the expenses through the business, if your kids go to private schools, and you're driving those through the business, you're cheating the tax man. I'm not recommending you do that, but almost everybody lives out of the business. So that's why it's so easy for me to tell you that you're going to be able to reduce the purchase price. And if your due diligence doesn't come back with the purchase price reduced 5 or 10 or 15%, you weren't looking hard enough. You weren't looking hard enough because it's possible. Yes, sir.
Sir, on seller finance, what's the loan term that you often would recommend?
10 years. 10 years. But we've got a guy in Canada right now that's getting seller finance 20, 25 years.
So 10 years minimum.
What? No, the minimum is, they say 3 years. But I mean, you want 10 years because I want to give you time to be able to refinance it. And 10 years, almost anybody can get the fucking thing refinanced in 10 years. In fact, almost anybody can get it refinanced in 5 years. But in 2-3 years, that's too tight. That's too squeezes you too much, and it puts too much pressure on you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't understand why, if you find this stupid cost inside of the company during due diligence, why should it lower the price? Because actually, when the old owner is not there anymore, these costs are not there anymore, so the profit is big.
Yeah, but you're just using it as an excuse to lower the price.
Okay.
You're using it. Yes, correct.
I go to the tax man.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
Mr. Peña, on the seller finance, right? When you say that we take the equity for the 5%, that's with the actual owner, with the note.
Well, the owner's note will be the 5%. Yeah.
I wonder.
Anything else? Okay, guys, it's fish and chip night. This is one of Sally's favorite nights. I will see you there, and I'll see you at 5:30 in a few minutes. Thank you.